So how do you become a praying church and not just a church with a prayer ministry? Most churches are organized on a hierarchical model. The flow chart is typically top down. The senior pastor is at the top, and then staff and business director, and then department leaders and the congregation. It's kind of like a pyramid. And that's served us well for 50 years or so. 100 of these charts are simultaneously different and yet the same. And we're not only organized hierarchically, but we're also organized departmentally. Most of our churches have a senior adult ministry, and we have a youth ministry, and we have a children's ministry. And we have a men's ministry and a women's ministry and a singles ministry, and we've got all these different departments. But here's the problem. Where in the Bible does it tell us to have youth ministry, or buy a van for our senior adults to go to Gatlinburg, even though all of us want to make that trip with them? Or where does it say, for that matter, we're to build a gym for youth ministry, or all those things? Let me be argumentative for a moment. My concern is that Christ didn't die for us to have the best Christmas pageant in town. We've organized the church on sociological lines. And yet, if we do these wonderful good things, who's against a great men's ministry or a place for kids can come and play who are safe? Nobody's against that. These things, however, are parallel to godly purposes at best. And in some cases, they may be completely peripheral. I fearfully suggest that we're well on our way to reforming the church into a Christian social club. If we're not careful, all of our departmental activities will degenerate into wonderful, enriching social activities conducted in an atmosphere of Christian grace, while we have a full, demanding schedule in a building that's well utilized. We will not be accomplishing the biblically stated mission of the church. Will not be the culture-changing instrument of God that pushes the darkness back and calls men into light. That's what we want to be. We want to be a house of prayer for the nations. Let me ask you something. Do you have a director of prayer ministries? Do you have a prayer department in your church? I hope you're starting one. Do you have a director of evangelism? Do you have a director of discipleship? The problem is that prayer and evangelism and discipleship can't be departments, because this represents the essence of what Christ has called you to do. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that we stop working with youth and children and men and women and singles and senior adults. No. I am suggesting, however, a completely different approach, that we move to what you might call a matrix approach that refuses to allow good activities to displace the mission of the church, the very purpose for which we were established. So here's what let's do. Let's mess with the senior pastor and the leadership first. Let's take them from the top and move them to the bottom. Why? Because the first have to be last and the greatest have to be a servant. Let's take all the departments in the church and let's let them continue to do what they're doing, minister to people. Then let's take prayer, evangelism, discipleship, and let's not make it a department. Let's make it about our vision and our mission. And let's have whoever is responsible for prayer and evangelism and discipleship, let's have those individuals working with the youth pastor and the children's pastor and the senior adult pastor and every other pastor. Here's what we would do. We would then not only minister to people, we would begin to accomplish mission through people. We've emphasized for so long that the church is here to minister to you. That now everybody believes that the church is here to minister to me. No. The church is here to minister to us, to get us healthy enough so that mission can be accomplished through us. So what you want is for prayer to penetrate every department of the church, as should evangelism, as should discipleship, until the young people become praying young people. Taught to evangelize, mentoring and discipling others, and the men and the women in all departments of the church. There are different levels of prayer ministry that you want to look at. Crisis, casual approach is not acceptable. Now, what you want to do is you want to become a praying church. If you can, you want to become a praying church with a dedicated prayer room. If you could, you want to become a praying church with a dedicated prayer room, one that has launched an aggressive, balanced prayer process that seeks to engage the whole church in prayer. It's more than a prayer ministry. You may not be able to set aside a room yet, but if you can, you set aside a dedicated room whose purpose is to be used by prayer resources, people coming and going. In some cases, you may be able to have a prayer center where groups come in and use the place for a personal prayer and small group prayer. Some churches can have a 24/7. Rarely can they have that. You want to move as far up this continuum as you can until you begin to touch a city, until you begin to pray not only for the congregation, until you have a prayed for congregation, and until you have a prayed for community and city all around you. You want to change the culture of your entire church in prayer.